Welcome to Stoic Philosophy for Life. This is not just a place to listen to books, it's a space to feel them with your soul. Here, we illuminate your mind with timeless lessons. Awaken your inner strength, cultivate self-minded discipline, and guide your journey of personal growth. Every word is carefully chosen to reach what you're truly seeking: peace, clarity, and lasting transformation. If this feels like the place for you, hit subscribe and walk this path with us every single day. Now, put on your headphones, take a deep breath, and begin the journey of renewing your mind and your life. How to fix 93% of life's problems with these 70 life lessons. Most of our suffering does not come from life itself, but from the way we choose to interpret it. You might think that statement is too simplistic. After all, pain is real. Loss is real. Disappointment cuts deep. But sit with this truth for a moment. How many times have you replayed a moment in your head that was already over? How often has the fear of what might happen stolen more joy than the actual event ever could? This video is not about fixing everything overnight. It is about giving you the tools to face life with clarity, strength, and resilience. If you stay until the end, you will walk away with lessons that are not just useful, they are life-saving. Let us begin with a simple truth that Stoics have taught for centuries: you are not disturbed by events, but by your judgment about them. Epictetus said that. Imagine you are standing in the rain. One person curses the sky, another dances in the puddles. The weather did not change. The interpretation did. This is not a poetic idea. It is a survival tool. Because once you realize that your mind is the filter through which every experience flows, you stop trying to control everything outside and start mastering what happens inside. Think about this: how many arguments were never really about the words spoken, but the meaning you assign to them? How many sleepless nights came from assuming the worst, even when the facts were unclear? This is the first major lesson: do not believe everything you feel. Emotions are messengers, not masters. They tell you something is happening, but not always what it is. Wisdom is learning to pause between emotion and reaction. In that pause, you reclaim your power. There is a story about a general who lost his army but not his composure. Napoleon once said, "The strong man is the one who is able to intercept at will the communication between the senses and the mind." That is emotional discipline. You do not have to be unfeeling. You just have to choose when and how to feel. That choice alone can solve more problems than any strategy or technique. Let me give you something practical. The next time someone disrespects you or says something hurtful, ask yourself, is this about me? Or is this a reflection of their own chaos? 9 times out of 10, it is not personal. People leak their pain. Do not catch it. You cannot fix your life by fixing other people. But you can fix your responses. And that alone will solve 93% of the emotional messes you encounter every week. If this message moved you, share it with someone who needs it. Another lesson: stop trying to win every battle. Not every slight is an invitation to war. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And one of the ways we waste it is by chasing approval, defending our pride, or trying to change minds that were never open." You do not have to explain your peace to people committed to chaos. Let go. Walk away. Protect your energy like it is your most precious resource, because it is. And here is something most people overlook: fixing your problems does not always mean solving them. Sometimes it means outgrowing them. What bothered you last year, last month, last week, does it still matter now? Growth makes many of life's problems irrelevant. When you become stronger, the problem becomes smaller. That is why investing in your mindset is not a luxury. It is survival. It is liberation. Let me tell you about the man who sat in silence while the world criticized him. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Imagine leading an empire and still choosing humility. Still choosing to journal your thoughts instead of broadcasting them. That is not weakness. That is control. And control, rightly understood, is not about dominating others. It is about being free from the need to. Modern life throws endless noise at us: opinions, headlines, disappointments, distractions. But if you can sit quietly with yourself, observe your thoughts without judgment, and respond instead of react, you are already ahead of most. Life will still throw problems at you, but you will no longer be at their mercy. One final thought for this section: you cannot hate your way into peace. You cannot judge your way into confidence. And you cannot rush your way into wisdom. Most of life's lessons are not learned in the peak moments, but in the quiet after. When you sit with your mistakes and ask, "What was this trying to teach me?" that is when transformation begins. Do you know what drains more energy than failure itself? The fear of it. So many people live trapped not by their circumstances, but by the stories they tell themselves about what might go wrong. They hesitate. They postpone. They rehearse defeat in their heads before life even gives them a chance to begin. But the Stoics understood something that most people still struggle with: fear is often more painful than the thing we fear itself. Marcus Aurelius once asked, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Fear is not a signal to retreat. It is a signal to examine. To question whether the monster in your mind is real or just a shadow cast by your doubts. Every great life begins on the other side of that question. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move through it with eyes open and heart steady. There is a lesson here that solves more problems than people realize. Take action before you feel ready. Most people wait. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mindset, the perfect mood. But the perfect time rarely comes. The people who fix their lives are the ones who learn to act even when they are unsure. Even when the fear is loud. Especially then. Clarity comes from movement, not hesitation. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be. And then do what you have to do. Simple. Brutal. Honest. You want discipline? Then start doing disciplined things. You want to be calm? Then start practicing calm, even in chaos. You want to be wise? Then start making decisions that your future self will thank you for, even when they are uncomfortable now. Most people think change is some grand event. But it is not. It is the accumulation of small, repeated choices in the direction of who you want to become. Let me ask you something: how many of your daily frustrations are caused by things you already knew better than to engage with? You knew that argument was pointless. You knew scrolling on your phone would leave you feeling worse. You knew that skipping the workout would cost you energy later. And yet you did it anyway. This is where philosophy meets accountability. Knowing is not enough. You must act on what you know. That is why the next lesson is this: protect your inputs. Garbage in, garbage out. The quality of your thoughts depends on what you feed your mind. If you are always surrounded by drama, gossip, negativity, and noise, do not be surprised when your spirit feels heavy and your motivation disappears. You do not rise above your environment by accident. You rise by intention. Clean your mental diet the same way you would clean what you eat. Guard your time like it is currency, because it is. And here is something even more powerful: learn to love boredom. Yes, boredom. Most of your best ideas, your deepest reflections, and your clearest moments of truth will arrive when the noise stops. But people are addicted to distraction. They chase stimulation like a drug. So they miss the wisdom that waits in silence. If you can be still, truly still, you will begin to see how much of your stress is self-minus created. How much of your unhappiness is optional. That realization alone can untangle years of internal conflict. If you are starting to feel something shift inside you, subscribe for more truths that shift your perspective. Let us go deeper. Another lesson that solves countless problems: stop expecting life to be easy. Easy is not the goal. Easy does not build strength, does not shape character, does not reveal who you really are. The Stoics believed in embracing the obstacle, not avoiding it. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, wrote Marcus Aurelius. Every problem is an invitation to grow. Every hardship is a test of who you say you want to be. Think of the blacksmith forging a sword. Fire. Pressure. Repetition. Without the resistance, the metal remains soft. The same goes for you. You do not become unshakable by coasting through life. You become unshakable by walking through the storms and choosing to stand tall anyway. Let life challenge you. Let it hurt you if it must. But never let it harden you. And here is a final insight: for this part, peace is not found in the absence of problems. It is found in the presence of purpose. When you wake up with something meaningful to move toward, the little annoyances lose their power. The delays, the criticism, the setbacks, they no longer derail you. Because your eyes are fixed on something higher, something lasting. Find that purpose, and protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. There is a quiet suffering that follows people every day. It is not loud, not dramatic. It is the kind of suffering that hides behind polite smiles and overfilled calendars. It sounds like "I am fine" when you are not. It looks like productivity masking pain. And it shows up when you live a life of constant reaction, always busy, always connected, but never truly present. This kind of life is not broken in any obvious way. But it is disconnected. Disconnected from self, from meaning, from stillness. One of the most powerful lessons you will ever learn is that peace is not something you find out there. It is something you return to by coming back to yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. That is not just philosophy. That is biology. Neuroscience confirms that repeated thoughts shape neural pathways. Think stress often enough and your brain becomes wired for anxiety. Think gratitude and you start to see beauty in ordinary things. This is not magic. This is training. And most people never train their minds at all. They train their bodies, their resumes, their appearance, but not their attention. That is why they feel overwhelmed. Because without direction, the mind becomes a storm. So here is a lesson that will free you: control your mornings, and you will reclaim your life. Not by checking messages or drowning in headlines, but by choosing stillness. 10 minutes. That is all you need. 10 minutes of quiet reflection before the world pulls at your attention. Write something down. Sit with your thoughts. Breathe. Ask yourself what really matters today. Not what is urgent. What is essential. If you're here right now, it means you're not waiting for life to happen. You're preparing for it. 2025 won't just be another year. It could be your breakthrough year, if you stay open to growth and committed to the work. Let this be your reminder: you're not behind, you're just getting ready. This small habit done consistently fixes more problems than you would expect, because it anchors you in purpose before the chaos begins. And what about the chaos? It will come. That is guaranteed. But you do not have to meet it as the same person every time. Growth means that life might still throw storms at you, but your response changes. You stop trying to control the waves, and you learn to steer the ship. That is resilience. And resilience is built one decision at a time. One breath. One response. One refusal to let circumstances decide your character. There is a story I love. A man loses everything: his home, his fortune, his certainty. People expect him to collapse. Instead, he smiles. Now I am free, he says. Free to rebuild without the weight of what I used to be. That is the spirit of Stoicism. Not to deny pain, but to transform it. To take what was meant to break you, and turn it into the reason you grow. Every ending can become a beginning if you decide it is. Another lesson, subtle but profound: do not trade your inner peace for the illusion of progress. It is easy to think that more hustle means more success. But if you are running without direction, all you are doing is exhausting yourself. Progress is not about speed. It is about alignment. You fix your life not by doing more, but by doing the right things and letting go of what drains you. The bravest thing you can do in a world addicted to more is to say no. To rest. To disconnect. To choose depth over noise. Have you ever noticed how we chase goals like finish lines, only to feel empty once we get there? That is because most people climb ladders leaning against the wrong wall. They succeed in things that do not matter. So here is another life-changing lesson: define success for yourself. Not for your parents. Not for your friends. Not for society. For you. What does a good day look like? What does a meaningful life feel like? Write it down. Revisit it often. Because if you do not choose your path, someone else will. If these words speak to your inner voice, share them with someone who needs to hear this too. Now let us talk about something even deeper. Forgiveness. Not for them, for you. Carrying resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It keeps you stuck in stories that no longer serve you. The Stoics understood this. Seneca wrote, "How much better to heal than to seek revenge from injury." Letting go is not weakness. It is strength. It is saying, I will not let this pain have permanent residence in my mind. You deserve peace more than you deserve to be right. And often, choosing peace is how you win. Here is a tool for healing: write a letter you will never send. Pour it all out. The anger. The confusion. The words left unspoken. Then burn it. Tear it. Release it. Closure does not always come from others. Sometimes it must come from you. And when it does, you create space for new joy, new connections, new beginnings. Let us close this section with a truth that is easy to forget: nothing lasts. Not the pain. Not the joy. Not the storm. Not the sunshine. Everything is temporary. And instead of fearing that, learn to embrace it. Because if nothing lasts, then every moment becomes sacred. Every breath becomes a gift. And every person you love becomes a miracle. There is a kind of suffering that looks like success. It wears nice clothes, drives expensive cars, and fills calendars with meetings. From the outside, it looks like everything is in place. But inside, something feels off. Like no matter how much you achieve, there is always an invisible itch and emptiness that milestones cannot scratch. This is the suffering of misalignment, of living a life that looks good but does not feel right. And no external reward can fix what is missing inside. Marcus Aurelius wrestled with this. He was the most powerful man in Rome, yet he often wrote to himself, reminding his heart not to be seduced by glory, not to chase what does not last. One line stands out: do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. It is time to realize that you have something better to do. That something better is living in alignment with your values. When your outer world reflects your inner truth, you stop feeling like a stranger in your own life. So here is a lesson that changes everything. Know your core values and live by them. Not what is popular. Not what gets applause. What matters to your soul. Honesty. Kindness. Discipline. Simplicity. Whatever they are, define them. Write them. Let them guide your choices. Because once you know what you stand for, decisions become easier. Boundaries become clear. And distractions lose their power. There is a metaphor I often return to. Imagine you are a lighthouse. Your job is not to chase ships or convince them to dock. Your job is to shine. To be steady. To stay rooted. The right ones will find you. The wrong ones will drift away. And your peace will remain untouched by the chaos of others. This is not isolation. It is sovereignty. And in a noisy world, it is one of the most liberating lessons you can live by. You want to fix your relationships? Start with this: do not try to be everything to everyone. You cannot carry people who refuse to walk. You cannot heal people who enjoy their wounds. Love does not mean self minus sacrifice to the point of self minus abandonment. It means showing up with truth, with presence, with boundaries. Some will respect that. Others will not. But your job is not to manage their reaction. Your job is to live in alignment with who you are. And here is something to sit with: no one owes you understanding. No one owes you closure. No one owes you loyalty. Harsh? Maybe. But freeing. Because once you let go of expectation, you stop living in disappointment. You start making peace with reality. You start choosing people who choose you not with their words, but with their consistency, with their presence, with their respect. You fix your heart not by getting everything you wanted, but by letting go of what was never real. If this resonates, subscribe for more truth that grounds you. Now, let us talk about comparison. That silent thief of joy. Social media, status games, subtle envy, it all creeps in when we are not paying attention. But here is the truth: you cannot compare your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. You cannot measure your self-minus worth with someone else's scoreboard. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Translation: let go of the need to impress. Growth often looks messy. Let it. One of the greatest lessons you will ever learn is this: you are not behind. You are not late. Life is not a race. It is a path. And your job is not to catch up, it is to wake up. To walk your path with eyes open and heart steady. Because the moment you stop comparing, you start living. You start noticing the beauty right in front of you, the kind you were too distracted to see before. There is a reason why people with less often seem happier. Gratitude. They see what they have, not just what they lack. Gratitude is not a soft concept. It is a tool. A weapon against despair. A shield against entitlement. And when you practice it daily, deliberately, you begin to notice how much joy was always available, waiting for you to slow down and pay attention. Let me leave you with one more truth for this part: healing is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to argue. Sometimes it looks like going for a walk instead of spiraling. Sometimes it means sleeping early, drinking water, turning off your phone, or calling someone you love. Small things. Quiet choices. But over time, they change everything. Most people walk through life half-minus asleep. Not because they are lazy, but because they are distracted. Every moment is filled with noise, notifications, obligations, endless opinions. So they stop noticing what is real. They forget to breathe deeply. They forget to ask themselves the most important question: is this how I want to live? One of the most powerful lessons you can learn is this: wake up. Be present. Because life is not lived in the past or the future. It is lived right here, right now. Epictetus once said, people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. That includes time. Many suffer not because of what is happening, but because they are stuck in what happened or worried about what might. They replay old mistakes. They rehearse future disasters. And they miss the only place where change is possible: this moment. The Stoics taught us to return to the now, not as a spiritual escape, but as a strategic move. Because when you are fully here, fully alive, problems shrink. Decisions become clearer. And joy becomes accessible again. There is a simple practice that changes everything. Pay attention. Not just to your thoughts, but to your body, your tone of voice, the tension in your shoulders. Most people carry stress for hours before they even realize it. But if you can pause, breathe, and observe without judgment, you interrupt the autopilot. You regain your ability to choose. And choice is the first step toward freedom. So here is the lesson: presence is power. It is not passive. It is not vague. It is sharp, focused, grounded. When you are present, you stop reacting from old wounds and start responding from wisdom. You stop trying to win arguments and start trying to understand. You stop escaping discomfort and start facing it. And that changes everything from how you work to how you love. Now let us talk about discomfort. Because most people spend their lives avoiding it. They avoid hard conversations. Avoid starting over. Avoid telling the truth. But what you avoid does not disappear, it grows. It festers. And eventually it owns you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That means you have the power to face discomfort and not run. To feel pain without becoming it. And that is one of the rarest and strongest abilities you can develop. Here is a mindset that solves more than it seems. Lean into discomfort. Not recklessly. Not with force. But with curiosity. Ask, what is this teaching me? Every difficult moment carries a lesson. Every pain has a purpose if you are willing to listen. Most breakthroughs are disguised as breakdowns. Most growth comes disguised as endings. Learn to stay long enough to find the meaning. If these words resonate with the quiet part of you, share them with someone who is ready to wake up. There is another overlooked truth: rest is not a reward. It is a responsibility. You are not a machine. You are not meant to grind endlessly. But society teaches hustle. Teaches burnout. Teaches that your worth is in your productivity. That is a lie. Your worth was never tied to how much you do. You are valuable because you are human. Because you breathe. Because you exist. Rest honors that truth. How many years have passed where you promised yourself change, but drifted back into comfort? This time, it's different because you're still here. You're listening, you're learning, And most importantly, you're not quitting. And that's what separates wishful thinking from real transformation. So fix your life by building rhythms, not just routines. Routines are schedules. Rhythms are sacred. Rhythms know when to push and when to pause. When to rise early and when to sleep in. When to speak and when to listen. Living in rhythm does not mean being lazy. It means being in tune. With your energy. With your season. With what life is asking of you, not just what the world expects from you. And here is a truth most people ignore until it is too late. Your body tells the truth. Long before burnout shows up in your calendar, it whispers through fatigue, through irritability, through numbness. Do not wait until your body screams. Learn to hear the whispers and honor them. Drink water. Move your limbs. Breathe deeply. Sleep. Touch the earth with your bare feet. You are not separate from nature. You are part of it. And when you forget that, you suffer. Let us close this section with a gentle reminder: life is not an emergency. You do not have to rush. You do not have to prove anything today. You do not have to figure it all out right now. You are allowed to slow down, to reflect, to recalibrate. The world will still spin. But maybe, just maybe, you will begin to see it more clearly. And that clarity, that stillness, that is how real change begins. There comes a point in life when you realize that noise is not just outside, it is inside. The constant self-judgment. The endless list of what you should be. The regrets that echo louder at night. And in those moments, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of self-attack. It is the space where you can finally hear your own voice again, not the critic, not the doubter, but the part of you that is calm, clear, and true. That voice does not shout. It whispers. You just have to make room for it. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And if you have ever spiraled into anxiety, you know this is true. We create entire disasters in our heads before they ever happen. We assume rejection before we even ask. We expect loss before life gives any sign of it. But what if, instead of rehearsing catastrophe, you rehearsed resilience? What if you met uncertainty not with panic, but with presence? That is not fantasy. That is discipline. A discipline of perspective. Here is one of the most underrated skills in modern life: emotional regulation. Not suppression. Not denial. But the ability to feel deeply without becoming consumed. To say, yes, this hurts and I will still move forward. That is power. The world will praise intelligence. It will reward talent. But what truly determines the quality of your life is this: can use it with discomfort without running. Can you face fear and still take the next step? You want to fix most of your problems? Then stop avoiding the mirror. Self-awareness is not weakness. It is the foundation of all strength. Because when you know yourself, your patterns, your triggers, your defenses, you stop being controlled by them. You begin to choose instead of react. And that choice opens doors that first never could. Here is a story that speaks to this. A man asked a monk, "What is the secret to peace?" The monk said, "Nothing." He poured tea into a full cup until it overflowed. The man shouted, "What are you doing?" "The cup is full," the monk replied. "Exactly. You are full of your own assumptions, your opinions, your pride. Empty your cup." Sometimes, fixing your life means unlearning before learning. Releasing before receiving. Letting go before moving on. If this reflection struck something inside you, Send it to someone who needs to breathe again. Another powerful lesson: not every thought deserves your attention. Just because a thought appears does not mean it is true. The mind throws all kinds of things at you: memories, judgments, fears, insecurities. If you catch everyone and hold on, you drown. But if you learn to observe without attachment, you float. You find clarity not by controlling every thought, but by choosing which ones to water. This is where mindfulness becomes medicine. It is not about sitting in lotus position for hours. It is about noticing. Noticing when your jaw tightens, when your breath shortens, when your thoughts speed up. These are signs, clues, invitations to return to the present, to return to yourself. And each time you do, you remind your nervous system we are safe. We are grounded. We are here. Let us talk about identity. Because many people suffer not from who they are, but from who they think they have to be. The achiever, the fixer, the strong one, the one who never complains. But those roles, while they may have served you once, can become prisons. So here is the lesson: you are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change your mind, to outgrow dreams, to redefine what success means to you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That means every belief you repeat paints your identity. Say, "I am stuck" often enough, and you become it. Say, "I am learning" instead, and everything shifts. Identity is not fixed. It is fluid. And the most powerful way to change your life is to change the story you tell about who you are. One final truth for this part: you do not need to have all the answers. You just need to stay in the conversation. With yourself. With life. Keep asking better questions. Keep showing up. Keep choosing the next right step. That is how mountains move. Not in leaps. In steps. Quiet ones. Consistent ones. And eventually, without even noticing, you look up and realize you are no longer where you started. There is a quiet kind of strength that does not announce itself. It is not found in loud speeches or grand victories. It is found in the person who keeps going when no one is watching. In the man who wakes up early not to impress, but to be better than he was yesterday. In the woman who chooses grace over revenge. That kind of strength does not trend. It does not scream. But it changes lives, starting with your own. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Most of life becomes unbearable not because of what happens, but because of our obsession with controlling the uncontrollable. We want people to act a certain way. We want outcomes to unfold in our favor. And when they do not, we suffer not from the event, but from the resistance. The moment you stop resisting what is, you reclaim your power. So here is the lesson: surrender is not the same as giving up. It is clarity. It is the wisdom to know what belongs to you and what does not. Your attitude. Yours. Your choices. Yours. Their opinion. Not yours. Their behavior. Not yours. The stock market. Not yours. The weather. Not yours. Focus on what you can shape, and you will begin to feel lighter mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That single shift solves more than it seems. Think of it like this: life is a river. You can fight the current and exhaust yourself, or you can learn to steer with it. Control your direction, not the water. Choose your effort, not the outcome. That shift is subtle, but life mind is changing. Let us talk about failure. Because most people are so afraid to fall that they never start climbing. But what is failure, really? A result. Feedback. Data. Not a definition. Not a death sentence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." He did not say to succeed. He said to live. That means your worth is not measured by what you achieve, but by how you live, how you rise after falling, how you treat yourself when things do not go as planned. Here is a mindset that fixes more than any strategy. Fail intentionally. Fail forward. Stop waiting for perfection and start collecting attempts. Because the person who tries 100 times will always beat the one who waits for the perfect opportunity. Life rewards motion. Courage. The willingness to look foolish, to stumble, to learn. And every failure becomes a brick in the foundation of your unshakable self. If these reminders hit something deep within, pass them on to someone building their strength in silence. Now, let us address a subtle killer of joy: self-minded betrayal. The small moments when you say yes when you mean no, the times you laugh to fit in, shrink to please, agree just to avoid conflict. These moments may seem small, but they add up. Each one chips away at your integrity, your wholeness. And eventually you look in the mirror and barely recognize who you are. So the lesson is this: choose yourself. Not selfishly, but honestly. Say what you mean. Honor your energy. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. This is not about arrogance. It is about alignment. Because when you betray yourself to belong, you pay the price in your soul. But when you live in truth, even if it costs you people or comfort, you gain something priceless: peace. Here is a practical tool. Before making a decision, ask, will I respect myself in the morning? If the answer is no, pause. Reflect. Realign. That one question has the power to save years of regret. Because respect for yourself is not just about big moments. It is built in daily choices. How you speak to yourself. How you feed your body. How you let others treat you. The little things shape the big picture. Let me leave you with this: you do not need to be perfect to be powerful. You do not need to have it all together to make a difference. What you need is honesty, courage, a willingness to begin again, every single day. Because the life you want is not found in one massive leap. It is built in quiet, consistent, intentional steps taken when no one is watching, and especially when it would be easier to quit. There is a moment in every honest life when they realize no one is coming to save them. No mentor, no partner, no perfect timing. Just you and the decision to show up for yourself. That moment can feel terrifying, but it is also the beginning of real freedom. Because when you stop waiting for the world to change and start changing the way you show up in it, everything shifts. The Stoics taught this relentlessly: your inner world is your responsibility. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That includes your reactions, your habits, your priorities. And this is where many problems begin, not because life is cruel, but because we forget we are not just spectators. We are architects. And every thought, every action, every belief is a brick in the life we are building. Let us talk about habits. Because most people try to change their life by changing outcomes. But outcomes are symptoms. Habits are roots. If you want peace, build peaceful habits. If you want strength, practice it daily in the smallest choices. The moment you wake up. The way you speak to yourself. Whether you choose distraction or discipline. These small, often invisible decisions determine everything. Here is a lesson that fixes more than people realize. Lower the volume on motivation and raise the volume on systems. Motivation comes and goes. Systems stay. Build your days around what you want to become, not what you feel like doing. Because when your environment supports your highest self, discipline becomes easier. And when discipline becomes identity, change becomes inevitable. If this message reminds you of someone working in silence, send it their way. They will understand. Now let us talk about solitude. Not loneliness. Solitude. There is a difference. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Solitude is the presence of self. And without it, you cannot hear your own thoughts clearly. You cannot know what you really want or what voice is truly yours. But when you learn to enjoy your own company, you become dangerous. Because you are no longer driven by desperation. You stop chasing validation. You become grounded. Whole. Complete. There is a version of you in 2025 that looks back at this moment and smiles. Because this is when it started, when you chose discipline over distraction, purpose over pressure. Keep listening. You are not just passing time, you are reshaping your future with every word. There is an old practice that Seneca often wrote about: journaling. Not for performance. Not for perfection. But for clarity. To untangle thoughts. To reflect. To notice what patterns repeat and what wisdom returns. A pen can become a mirror. And in that mirror you begin to see the truth, not what you wish were true, but what is. And only when you see clearly can you begin to change honestly. Here is a question worth asking: what am I pretending not to know? Often, the answer to your biggest problem is already inside you. But the noise of pride, fear, or habit gets in the way. Sit with that question. Let it sting. Let it humble you. Because once you stop pretending, you can start healing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. Life will test you. That is not a threat, it is a promise. But if you stop seeing problems as punishments and start seeing them as practice, everything changes. Resistance becomes fuel. Delay becomes preparation. And setbacks become teachers. Let us get practical. One of the best things you can do to fix your life is to stop multitasking. Yes, stop. Your brain is not built for it. Every time you split your attention, you lose depth. You lose presence. You lose time. Focus on one thing. Give it your full energy. Whether it is work, a conversation, a walk. Single-minded tasking is a superpower in a world that glorifies being busy. And the people who master focus master momentum. If you are still here, still reflecting, still breathing through the weight of these words, subscribe. This is your space now. Let us close with a shift in mindset that will save you from so much unnecessary pain. Life owes you nothing. Not fairness. Not understanding. Not predictability. But that is not bleak. That is liberating. Because once you drop the belief that things should be a certain way, you start living with what is. And when you live with what is, you stop fighting reality. You start flowing with it. You begin to ask, what is life asking of me right now? Instead of, why is this happening to me? That is where peace takes root. That is where you stop reacting to life and start responding like someone who is not just surviving, but finally, truly, awake. There is a kind of courage that looks like stillness. It does not roar. It does not demand attention. It simply refuses to be shaken. While others panic, it pauses. While others blame, it reflects. And while the world rushes, It chooses to remain rooted. That is the kind of courage Marcus Aurelius carried, not as a warrior on the battlefield, but as a thinker in the face of chaos. He led an empire, yes, but more importantly, he led his own mind. And that is the highest kind of leadership there is. One of the most profound lessons you can live by is this: you do not have to react to everything. Not every opinion needs a response. Not every insult needs a defense. Not every discomfort needs to be escaped. Your power lies in your pause. In the moment you decide to observe instead of absorb. To notice your emotions without becoming them. To feel the wave without drowning in it. That is not denial. That is discipline. Here is a mindset that solves more relational pain than anything else. Assume less, ask more. We project so much. We assume intentions, we read tone into silence, we fill in gaps with our worst fears. But clarity is not found in guessing. It is found in curiosity. Ask. Speak. Clarify. Most of the drama people endure is self-authored, written by assumptions they never fact-checked. Now let us talk about boundaries. Because without them, kindness turns into resentment. Helping turns into enabling. Presence turns into depletion. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks designed to protect what is sacred. You cannot live in peace if you allow chaos into every room of your mind. So here is the lesson: boundaries are not selfish. They are a sign of maturity. Of self-respect. Of knowing what you can carry and what you must put down. If these words hit home, share them with someone who gives too much and feels too little in return. There is a story of a man who was constantly insulted by a critic. One day, a friend asked him, "Why do you never respond?" The man smiled and said, "If someone hands you a gift and you do not accept it, who does it belong to?" This is Stoicism. It is not numbness. It is not coldness. It is selective attention. It is choosing where to invest your energy and letting the rest fall away. You fix your emotional life not by eliminating conflict, but by training your focus. What you magnify becomes your experience. Focus on what is missing, and you will live in lack. Focus on what is working, and you will live in abundance. The facts may be the same, but the meaning you assign to them creates your reality. Let us get deeper. One of the most powerful acts of self-love is forgiveness. Not the kind that says, "What you did was okay," but the kind that says, "What you did will no longer control me." Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It is release. And sometimes the person you most need to forgive is yourself. For what you did not know. For the ways you coped. For the time you lost while surviving. Here is a practice: write down 3 moments you carry shame around. Then next to each one, write what you would say to a friend who went through the same thing. Say it to yourself. Out loud. With compassion. Because if you would not shame someone else for it, why keep punishing yourself? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the opinions of others are fleeting, but self-respect is permanent. So let us talk about approval. Because the need for it silently runs so many lives. But the truth is, the more you seek validation, the more you hand over your peace. You live on edge, one comment away from joy, one look away from despair. That is no way to live. So the lesson is this: live in a way that you would admire even if no one else ever sees it. Be the kind of person who, when alone in a room, still chooses integrity. Because that kind of self-trust, it quiets every storm. It centers you in a world that constantly tries to pull you off balance. Let me close this part with one quiet reminder: you are already enough. Not when you lose the weight. Not when the bank account grows. Not when the relationship works out. No. As you are. Imperfect. Growing. Trying. And when you truly believe that, you stop performing and start living. There is a certain kind of wisdom that only comes from sitting with your own silence. Not scrolling. Not running. Just sitting. Listening. And in that quiet, something unexpected happens. You begin to hear the truth, not the one others told you, not the one fear constructed, but the truth your soul has been whispering all along. Most people avoid this moment their whole lives. But you? You are different. You are ready to listen. Epictetus taught, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. In a world that constantly tells you to become someone else, to dress a certain way, think a certain way, speak a certain way, this is a radical act. To know yourself. To stay grounded in it. To build a life around that truth, instead of constantly chasing other people's versions of success. That choice alone fixes countless inner conflicts. Let us talk about self minus worth. Because the foundation of a peaceful life is knowing that your value does not fluctuate with performance. Not with praise. Not with criticism. You are not a product. You are not a project. You are a person. And no mistake, no missed opportunity, no failure can take that away. The Stoics believed in self-minus sufficiency, not isolation, but the kind of independence that allows you to stand tall, even when everything else falls. So here is a lesson that frees you from the prison of overthinking. Stop tying your identity to your circumstances. You are not your job title. You are not your follower count. You are not your bank balance or your relationship status. These things may reflect parts of your journey, but they are not you. Who you are is revealed in how you treat people, in how you respond to struggle, in what you choose when no one is watching. If that reminder sparked something in you, pass it along to someone who needs to hear it tonight. Let us talk about regret. That heavy, quiet emotion we carry like a second skin. It can sneak into your mind in the middle of joy and pull you right back into guilt. But here is a truth the Stoics knew: while regret is only useful if it leads to wisdom. Beyond that, it becomes self-minus punishment. And life is already difficult enough without you becoming your own enemy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That means stop replaying what you should have done, and start becoming who you know you can be. Let the past be your teacher, not your tormentor. Look at your mistakes, learn from them, and move forward with intention. That is how you make peace with your past, not by forgetting it, but by redeeming it. Another lesson that eases the mind: stop measuring progress by perfection. Growth is not linear. Healing is not neat. Some days you will feel clear. Others confused. That is normal. That is human. The goal is not to always feel strong. The goal is to keep choosing what aligns with your values, even on the days you feel weakest. That kind of consistency. That is what builds character. And let us not forget the importance of simplicity. Seneca wrote often about the virtue of living simply. Not in poverty, but in clarity. In freedom from excess. Because when you own too much, when you chase too much, your mind becomes cluttered. You lose focus. You lose peace. The antidote. Cut back. Deculture. Prioritize. Not just your home, but your commitments, your relationships, your goals. Try this the next time you feel overwhelmed. Ask, what can I remove, not add? Remove. Often, peace is not something you find. It is something you uncover beneath the layers of pressure and performance you never needed in the first place. Let us talk about endings. Because sometimes the thing you need most is to let something go. A job. A friendship. A version of yourself that no longer fits. It is hard. But endings are not failures. They are transitions. If you found this video valuable and meaningful, please consider sharing it. You never know, it might help someone who truly needs it. And what most people call rock bottom is often the solid foundation they finally rebuild upon. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means making room. For what is next. For what is true. For what will actually nourish your soul. Here is one more truth for this part: your peace is your responsibility. Not your partner's. Not your boss's. Not your circumstances. Yours. And once you take ownership of that, you stop waiting for life to calm down and you start learning how to remain calm in the middle of it. That shift alone changes everything. There is a quiet rebellion in choosing peace over chaos. In choosing to walk away when anger calls your name. In choosing to be kind, not because the world is, but because you are. These are not weak decisions. These are powerful acts of self-mastery. And if more people understood that real strength looks like restraint, like grace under pressure, like silence instead of shouting, most of life's messes would never be made. Epictetus reminded us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Let that sink in. It means you are never powerless. Even in pain, even in confusion, even when you are backed into a corner, you still own your response. That is the beginning of every transformation. Not when the world changes, but when you do. Let us talk about relationships. Because many problems people carry come from expecting others to complete them. But wholeness is not something you find in another person. It is something you bring. Love is not rescue. It is resonance. To whole people walking side by side, not leaning on each other out of desperation, but choosing each other from strength. Here is the lesson that frees you: stop demanding from others what you have not given yourself. Do you want honesty? Be honest with yourself first. Want loyalty? Ask if you have stayed loyal to your own standards. Want compassion? Then examine how you speak to yourself when you fall. Relationships improve the moment you shift from expectation to responsibility. And sometimes, healing means outgrowing people. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Not everyone can go where you are going. Some will misunderstand your silence. Some will reject your boundaries. That is not your burden to carry. Your job is not to convince. It is to become. And those who are meant to walk with you, they will adjust their pace, or they will fall away. Either way, your peace remains. If this reminder brought you strength, send it to someone walking away from old versions of themselves. Let us move inward again. One of the most damaging beliefs is that you have to earn your worth. That you must prove, perform, perfect your way into acceptance. But your value is not transactional. It is inherent. And until you believe that, you will keep chasing things that cannot fulfill you. The applause. The title. The validation. All of it fades. What stays is how you see yourself when no one is clapping. So here is a simple but profound truth: speak to yourself like someone you are responsible for. Encourage. Guide. Forgive. You would never shame a child for falling while learning to walk. So why do it to yourself while learning how to live? You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress. That paradox. It is where self-respect is born. Let us talk about time. Because most people treat it like it is unlimited until it is not. They spend years waiting. Waiting for the right moment. The right mood. The right opportunity. But as Seneca wrote, while we wait for life, life passes. So here is the lesson: stop waiting. Start where you are, with what you have. Do the small thing. Say the true thing. Take the next step. Life is happening now, not someday. There is a kind of peace that comes when you begin to live with urgency, not anxiety, but awareness. That every conversation could be your last. That every morning is not guaranteed. And with that awareness comes tenderness. You begin to listen more closely. To hold others more gently. To forgive more easily. Because you know the cost of carrying things too long. Let me leave you with this: you do not rise by escaping the fire. You rise by walking through it. With grace. With courage. With the quiet knowing that this too is shaping you. That this too will pass. And when it does, you will not be the same. You will be stronger. Softer. Wiser. More whole. And that is the kind of victory no one can take away from you. At the end of all your striving, all your chasing, all your searching, there is only one question that really matters: did you live true to yourself? Not perfect. Not successful in the way the world defines it. But honest. Whole. Awake. Most people spend their lives reacting, bouncing between obligations, approval, and old fears. But there comes a moment when you stop. You breathe. And you ask, what kind of life do I want to live truly? That moment is not small. It is the beginning of everything. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." These words echo like a quiet command. They ask you to stop planning and start becoming. Stop explaining and start living. Because the truth is, most of the answers you seek are not found in more information. They are revealed through action, through repetition, through the quiet bravery of doing the right thing when it is hard, and especially when it is invisible. Here is a lesson that will carry you for life. Your life is your responsibility. Not your parents. Not your pasts. Not your pains. Yours. That may feel like pressure. But it is also your greatest power. Because it means you are not stuck. You are not doomed to repeat patterns forever. You can change. And every day you are invited to do so, not by giant transformations, but by simple choices that stack into a different future. Let us talk about presence again. Because the more you grow, the more you realize that what you feel in a moment matters more than what you achieve in it. You can win the award and still feel empty. You can reach the goal and still feel numb. But you can also sit on a bench in silence, watching the wind touch the trees, and feel more alive than you have in years. That elevates. That presence. That is success. Everything else is decoration. If you have made it this far, share this with someone who is walking home to themselves, one truth at a time. Let us return to the body, because it is often the first to suffer and the last to be heard. Your tension speaks volumes. Your sleep patterns tell stories. Your gut reactions are messengers. You cannot outthink what you refuse to feel. So listen. Stretch. Move. Hydrate. Rest. Your body is not a machine. It is a living reflection of your internal world. When you take care of it, you signal to yourself, I am worth caring for. And that belief will change how you treat everything else. Now, about letting go. You must understand, peace does not come when everything is perfect. It comes when you are no longer addicted to the need for everything to be perfect. When you let go of control. When you let go of needing others to understand. When you stop rewriting the past and start reimagining your future. Letting go is not the end, it is the space in which something new can begin. There is a Japanese concept called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. The cracks are not hidden, they are highlighted, celebrated, because the piece is more beautiful for having been broken. That is you. That is your life. Your healing is not about erasing the pain. It is about honoring the journey, the lessons, the resilience. You are not less because you were hurt. You are more because you healed. And finally, remember, this life is not about fixing everything. It is about walking with wisdom, with humility, with wonder. There will always be unknowns, always new challenges. But if you carry these lessons with you, these 70 small but mighty truths, you will not just survive them. You will transform through them. Because at the heart of all Stoic philosophy, and all self-mastery, is this: you cannot always choose what happens. But you can always choose who you become. And that choice, that quiet, daily, radical choice, it is how you fix 93% of life's problems. Thank you for walking this journey. Until next time, stay grounded, stay free, and above all, stay true. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Write one thing down that you'll start doing this week. 2025 doesn't magically change anything you do. And your future begins the moment you decide to move, even just a little.